Hey now, and go Gators. We are getting over, and I am the national championship winning Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through some not so hard times. With the latest WWE edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again on the road from Augusta, Georgia, and we are here to break down everything that happened in WWE over the last week as the road to WrestleMania 41 tightens up. We have an absolutely loaded show for you, as we always seem to, right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. So let's not waste any time off the top. Allow me to remind you that this show
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating. On Apple, take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. We had a number of 5-star reviews still coming in this week. Fantastic, consistent show, brother, from Lucas J. Spring. I found the show recently when looking for a balanced, fair wrestling podcast. There aren't many. And this is the favorite I found. Love Chris from his CFB work. And the CFB wrestling crossover is rare. They cover the major U.S. promotions consistently, and even when I disagree with an opinion of Chris or Adam, it's not because they're wrong, but it's because they believe in it so passionately without being performative that it makes me want to jump in the debate. Keep up the great work. One last note. This last episode, you guys criticized WWE for saying it's weird that they announced multiple theme songs for WrestleMania this year. As a nerd, I instantly had to check you guys. They've done this most years since WrestleMania 23 in 2007. They usually have a primary and secondary theme. That year was Ladies and Gentlemen by Saliva and The Memory Will Never Die by Default. Iconic mid-2000s duo. They sometimes even have 3 songs like they did for WrestleMania 38. WrestleMania 40 was a rare one that only had one theme song, maybe leading to the confusion. Okay, I'm done. Great show. First of all, great review, Lucas. Really appreciate that. Chris, is that accurate that there are other WrestleManias with more than one theme? I just don't recall that. I'm not saying he's wrong. I just don't recall it at all.
It sounds familiar to me. You brought it up last week. I was not prepared for it and had not done research and didn't know. And you were really passionate about it. I didn't really care. So
we're going to have to look it up and see if he's right then.
I don't, given he gave some specifics, I don't see any reason to doubt it.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I just don't recall at all. So yeah, that's
it's also probably because it was mostly music you didn't care about. You know,
maybe
now that we have Travis Scott involved in some hip hop, maybe it grabbed your attention.
I mean, I'm just thinking WrestleMania 33. It was Green Light by Pitbull, and that was it. I mean, maybe there was another that existed, but there's usually a theme song. And they announced the Weekend song at one time on SmackDown, and they haven't played it again. It's been Fiend every single time on both shows ever since that one announcement. So I just don't really understand what they're doing there.
I'm also the person who could have sworn there were 2 songs for the Rumble this year, but couldn't find evidence of that. So I don't know.
All right, more reviews. Shawnee Shotgun, Best Wrestling Pod. Great breakdowns of all wrestling shows. Been following Silver King since ITC days. Vintage is the perfect balance to the show. Thank you very much, Shawnee. The best there is, the best there was, and best there ever will be, I assume, is where that is going. William_Sakor. I've been listening for a little over a year, and it's excellent. A fantastic blend of passion and rationalism in a medium and subject matter in which those two so often don't mesh. Vintage and the Silver King have a fantastic working relationship that allows for disagreement, sometimes passionate, without feelings being hurt. My favorite episodes are the instant analysis, where I crack open a cold one with them while they review PLEs. Those are some of our favorites as well, William. Greatly appreciate that. Easy Ian, 5-time. I've been listening for years, but Review 500 felt like the perfect time for the 5-star review. Easily the best wrestling podcast. # justice for Chris. He's not the only one on the pod with bad takes. Keep up the great work. Wow. Hey, Ian or Ian. Yeah, get a better name, bro. No, I'm just kidding. That's fine. Chris does have good takes sometimes, and I do have bad takes rarely. Sticky Unleashed, thank you, 5 stars. I'm a longtime fan, day one-ish. Some might say I wanted to be number 500 for reviews for a long time, and it's because I knew it was my best chance to let Chris and Silver King know how thankful I am, truly, for their show. I had been taking care of my mom for the past 5 or 6 years, and things worsened with her health. The brighter spots in her life got harder and harder to find, but with you guys being here every week, I was also promised at least a couple hours of an escape. I lost her last April. I'm sorry to hear that, man. And the only thing that I could listen to for the months after was you guys. The love, passion, and joy you two bring every podcast was something I hung on to, and I'll never be able to repay that. So the best I can do is be number 500. And to finally say what I wanted to all year, thank you both for everything you sacrifice and pour into this podcast. And now to steal someone else's gimmick. Bye for now. Man, I did not read these, Chris, before I decided to do them on the show today. I've been traveling crazy, and I mean, even getting the show prepared was ridiculous. Sticky Unleashed, man, that means a lot. And if we meant that much to you, then, we're doing something right here. SLT22, hey now. This is not only my favorite wrestling podcast, it's actually one of my favorite podcasts, period. Most podcasts that I listen to are during my work hours. I actually listen to Getting Over after work, so it has all my attention. Their analysis of the matches as well as the booking are next to none. As a fellow diehard wrestling fan and 80s baby, I often find myself listening to the pod and saying, I know, right? As if I'm having a convo with the guys. I've wanted to post a review for a while, but waited in hopes of being number 500. I'll probably be 501 by the time I'm finished writing, so I'll stop now. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, STL22. Another one from Enflin17, Getting Over more like they are over. I have been listening from the first days, been a fan and supporter of Adam since the ITC and other SOC days. It has been amazing to see the growth of the show and community over the years. Silver King and Vintage give fantastic and informative insights and breakdowns of everything going on in WWE and AEW. They are fair and balanced in their takes. Adam and Chris do a stellar job of making sure our voices are heard and try to give thoughts on their listeners' ideas, making us feel like a full-fledged third member of the program. The show has gone from in my rotation of podcasts to now, really and honestly, the only one I listen to constantly and eagerly wait for new episodes to drop. It's always good to know that come Tuesday, shout out Von Wagner, I will have some top-tier performance-enhancing audio to get me through my drive home. Keep up the great, diligent work. Hot takes, no matter how incorrect they may become, looking at you, Chris, and amazing content that continues to inform and satisfy the masses. Thank you both. That string of reviews, Chris, I mean, that is immensely meaningful. I wish I could tell one of you that your review number 500. We're at 503. We passed the mark. That was our goal before WrestleMania. I mean, let's get to 510. I don't know by WrestleMania at this juncture, but everyone taking out the time to write those words and have them be as emotional as many of those are. Let me just straight up say, we acknowledge all of you.
Acknowledge.
Acknowledge.
Big acknowledgement right there. Acknowledge.
Yeah, shoot, man, those are just incredible to hear, really. And I guess we haven't talked about it on the show, but we're right around, or we just hit the 5-year mark of this show, which we started shortly before WrestleMania, right before COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
We just did this because we wanted to talk wrestling with somebody, and I'm glad we get to do it and to hear from people who it helps them. Just unbelievable. I've had the same situation. I've had stuff going on, and there's a certain podcast I like that helps me just kind of get through the day. So really grateful to everybody who has sent in reviews and told us about it, and frankly just listens, because we do this for you guys, and it's always great to hear from people.
You want to hear a secret I don't think I've ever shared on this show before?
What's that?
I've never listened to a podcast. I've never subscribed to a podcast. I've listened to individual episodes.
No, we know this.
Oh, I've said that before?
We did. We got a last word question one time about someone who asked us what podcast we like.
Oh, okay.
And that was when you revealed that you basically just old Howard Stern episodes.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's what I listened to.
What you said, and I was blown away by
All right, and we had I remember now. We had the conversation about, well, that's kind of a podcast, even though it's not. It's literally a radio show, but it's audio that you can download and listen to. So it's in a similar vein. So I guess that's true. But yeah, I mean, that's every time someone brings it up, and like, this means so much to me. And I love that we have that effect on people, and that they like the show this much, where it's meaningful to them and they wait for the episodes and all that. And it's why I feel bad. I mean, almost all of you who are listening to this episode are listening on Wednesday, which is never the case. It's coming out so late. But these last 48 hours, I'm just going to tell you straight up, okay? And Chris, maybe, we'll interrupt what we're going to talk about right now real quick. The Florida Gators won the national championship on Monday night. That's after they had an incredible Final Four win over Auburn. I'm on cloud 9 when it comes to my sports fandom right now. I'm in Augusta. I'm going to the Masters. I mean, it couldn't be any better. Here's the truth. In the last 2 days, I've slept 7 total hours. I've also driven 8 hours, maybe 9. Every other hour, I've been working. one thing or another. We have a huge special guest coming for you on Wednesday's planned episode, which I don't know when the hell that's going to go out. Maybe at night, maybe Thursday morning. We're going to figure that out. But Drew McIntyre is joining the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Fantastic conversation I had with Drew. So this has been, outside of when I've pretty much worked nonstop for 48 hours, whether it's around March Madness or the Masters or the National Championship for football or the Super Bowl, whatever the case, when it comes to like merging my things I love and my work, I don't know that there's been a more difficult yet more rewarding 48-hour period. So I hope the fruits of that labor show themselves both on this episode, the next episode of WWE content we have with Drew McIntyre joining us, and everything that's to come next week for WrestleMania. We have a loaded WrestleMania 41 week for you guys.
Yes. And normally you're doing this from Augusta after Mania, but instead it's a week before because they moved it back. So,
which actually makes it more difficult, to be honest. No, it's actually more difficult because the road to is so much tougher than the Raw after. That's really just one show. It's, 2.5, 3 hours of content we got to cover. This, it's all important. So, man, it has been an absolute grind, and we got so much more to talk about. We're taping this so late. Let's get on with the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You're going to get the full length Drew McIntyre interview. You need that. It's going to be published Wednesday, maybe early Thursday. We'll tell you on social media. By the way, you can follow us there at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. Chris, we have so much to talk about on this show. We have the main event, and it is a loaded main event. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a loaded good, bad, and ugly.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And legitimately, I am confident that the rest of this show is comprehensive. I don't even believe our news segment is news. Just a couple things I wanted to talk about off the top here. First, I said last week it was going to take some time to get used to that guy Mike Nash as the SmackDown ring announcer. 7 days later, I'm used to him. He was legitimately great on Friday night. He had some incredible announces on that show. It's not that he did a poor job in his debut. It just came across to me like he really honed in onto some specifics and figured out the way he wanted to do this job.
There you go. I thought he was mostly fine the first time around and continued. It's something I don't even notice, essentially, which is kind of a good thing.
It is.
Like, he sounds like a WWE announcer, so it's good.
Wanted to point out, I thought it was really cool. The women got the entire first 30 minutes of Raw, maybe even longer than that on Monday night. That was the part that ran unopposed to the NCAA tournament, the championship. So WWE said, we're putting our best foot forward to keep viewers, and they put the women out there. And that I thought was huge.
Yes, that's awesome. It's I didn't even notice, again, because it's one of those things where they do it so often now. We don't talk about the firsts or any of this or that. It is what it is. Yeah. And that's ultimately where everybody wanted to get to. Yeah. So you mentioning this, I didn't even notice. It's just a wrestling.
I don't even know why. I think I noticed it just because I was so tired and I was like putting the show together. I'm like, women's segment. Oh, wow, look at that. 2 in a row. And then I looked at the time and I was like, oh, that's the only time that was unopposed to the tournament. But you're right. The women main event, it's just like, oh yeah, it's a main event. And that's a quality when you don't realize those things. I did realize this, so I guess that's maybe counter to the point I was making, but that is the way things are going in WWE right now, where it's commonplace in many cases, where some of the most popular women in the entire company, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, as 2 examples, are women, and it's just great. That's normal. It doesn't stand out as much as when Becky Lynch was the most over person in the company for that period of time. And lastly, Raw and SmackDown, I thought they were largely excellent this week, Chris. But that Raw crowd on Monday night, it was atrocious. Not because they weren't loud. It's actually the opposite. They were loud, but in the wrong place. Every single time they were chanting during serious promos that were cutting deep, and the chants didn't factor into the promos. They weren't paying attention to the actual wrestling. They had 2 of the best promos of the year from Jey Uso and Seth Rollins in WWE. They were more interested in chanting what they wanted to rather than listening to what was happening in front of them, which was super strong. I was so frustrated watching that Raw, not because it wasn't a good episode. It was a great episode. Not because the crowd wasn't loud. It was loud, but they weren't paying attention, and that is so bad.
You're saying it's bad that Jey Uso is getting whatted when he's trying to tell an emotional story about his mom?
Or his mom's crying on the phone because his brother has getting 15 stitches in his head, and they're yeeting.
Yeah, or yes, yeeting, right. I thought SmackDown was good. I thought Raw was
Really?
but
Interesting.
It's more of a larger topic we'll get into in the main event, which is frankly the main event.
Yeah.
Builds to Mania. It's just a weird Raw to not have Cody, Cena, Roman, your biggest guys.
Yeah.
Your
penultimate Raw.
It's the second to last Raw before Mania.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing? And I'll talk about it more in the main event. It was we got as many comedians on the show as we did WrestleMania main eventers. So weird.
I'm trying to think. That is accurate. That is exactly correct. 2 and 2. Unacceptable.
Yep.
Let me remind you all, by the way, that on this show,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major TV show, though candidly, because I am working this week, you're not going to get those this week, but you will get exclusive news analysis posts. Just sign up, please. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Support the continuation of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast by going into those pockets, sprinkling some spare change on your boys, the Silver King and vintage Chris Vanini. With all that said, Chris, we have a ton of show to get to, and we're kicking it off, as we always do, by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
Now, we've gone through some episodes recently with triple main events and co-main events. Not this week. It is a singular main event topic. It is Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Paul Heyman. CM Punk opened SmackDown. By the time the video package and entrance music ended, 11 minutes had transpired. Punk literally grabbed the apron camera, filmed 100% full hard cam side, which was incredible theater. He put over Chicago for being as loud as Europe and did the Goosebumps thing, half mocking The Rock. I think he said, this is real. The Rocks are real too. It's crazy that he gets them every single time, but they are real. Fans chanted, "You deserve it." So he said, "I earned it." Then he thanked a ton of people, shouted out April, leading to an AJ Lee chant. He said the hard work is just beginning. He has to kick the asses of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman strutted out, calling Punk his best friend, the best in the world. He indulged in an ECW chant, saying Punk belongs in the main event of WrestleMania. Then he recounted over the last 9 months of story, asking Punk for his own favor. "Just tell me the favor that I owe you." Punk refused, saying he wanted to tell Heyman and Reigns together. This was a red-hot opener simply because it was Punk in Chicago. Content-wise, it felt like he was out there accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award for being handed a main event match, as we described last week, just because. I was glad he pointed out, let me just finish real quick.
Yeah.
I'm glad he pointed out that the work was just beginning, but it still came across as far too much of a celebration. Luckily, this was just the prelude to what main evented SmackDown. And given that was the case, this may be what you were about to say. Maybe I'm being a little bit overly critical. But as always, Punk and Heyman together, they were magic. The chemistry is immense. And Heyman being out there recounting the story to catch fans up who were just tuning in, that was immensely important on the road to WrestleMania for casuals.
Yes, I just thought he basically said he earned his way into the WrestleMania main event, and it goes back to what we said last week, which was, did he? It just got put in the contract. It's after the fact, celebrating again in Chicago that he is in the WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, he literally did not earn it.
Correct.
Yeah,
like you said, more of a Lifetime Achievement placement for that. But yes, he got it last week. He's in Chicago. It makes sense to talk about it. Him and Heyman are always great. And I just wanted to note that was a weird line. I'm still kind of irked by that, but we move on.
No, you're right. Heyman backstage spoke into the camera, saying the answer is yes, no matter what Punk asks as his favor. While he said this, a black SUV pulled into the arena behind him. Great camera shot. Heyman was enthused that his tribal chief had finally arrived. Instead, it was Seth Rollins giving Paul shit, saying he looks terrible, whereas Seth feels great because he has been able to get over Punk main eventing WrestleMania, getting that gift, and he has since formulated a plan. He said he would be present for the favor announcement. Reigns arrived with 16 minutes left, not only stormed past Heyman, got to the ring in, I didn't totally count, but it was 60 seconds. His fastest ring walk by a factor of at least 6 minutes in the last 6 years. Reigns shared a secret. Punk wouldn't be back in WWE or in the main event without the tribal chief. Despite ripping Punk in Chicago, Roman got OTC chants, loud ones. Rollins entered instead of Punk. He got loudly serenaded. He said Reigns doesn't live in the real world, which is why reality keeps biting him in the ass. The heist of the century, losing to Cody Rhodes last year. Fans interrupted, chanting, "What's the favor?" Rollins actually handled it really well. Seth told Roman that Punk is not someone who can be ignored. He won't go away, and that's the reality Roman has created by not ending it all at War Games or letting Rollins end it in the steel cage match. Rollins said he's not going to suffer from the reality that Reigns has created, but rather he would adapt and control it. Reigns nodded. It seemed like he was agreeing with him. But then he said Rollins is untrustworthy and disloyal, whereas Roman stood by his word to Heyman when it came to Punk. Rollins said doing that would bite him in the ass because he knows Punk better. Punk finally came out saying the favor is about friendship, legacy, promises made, promises kept, and loyalty. Punk recalled Heyman fighting for him in Ohio Valley Wrestling and reminded what he said to him long ago on Raw. He got in Reigns' face, saying he would force him out of his comfort zone at WrestleMania because Heyman, his best friend, would be in Punk's corner. Roman acted affected, as Seth said, "I told you so," but Reigns laughed at that being the favor, saying Heyman loves him and needs him because he saved his life. And even if Roman let him be in Punk's corner, Paul wouldn't do it. Heyman welled up with tears. He protested. Reigns demanded he say no, so Heyman said, "No, I can't do that." Punk had a confident, steadfast, shit-eating grin on his face. Rollins laughed his ass off in the opposite corner, which was probably my favorite part of the entire segment. As Reigns backed Heyman down in another corner, Punk attacked him from behind with a microphone, hit go to sleep. Then Rollins just left and Punk stood tall. Heyman was on his knees crying. Reigns was laid out like Peter Griffin. His selling is so immensely underrated. He does not get enough credit for it. I'm going to give credit where it's due because the booking here was completely logical, sensible, and fitting within their storyline. It was freaking on point. And honestly, airtight. It finally hit many of the story beats that needed to be addressed, frankly, far earlier. I really cannot stress that enough. And yet, the moment didn't completely 100% deliver for one specific reason. But it did get 90% of the way there, no doubt. The blocking of this segment was exceptionally well done. WWE understood Punk simply saying the words was not enough. The drama needed to be built with Reigns' overt confidence, Heyman's emotion, Rollins' entire reaction. This matters immensely in their storyline, primarily Reigns' air of confidence being dented as Rollins laughed his ass off about Roman's bluster and willingness to help Punk, not taking him seriously, coming back to cost him again, as Rollins guaranteed it would the entire time. You also had the start of Punk and Heyman reuniting, something fans have long wanted and Heyman long promised, and Reigns getting betrayed again as he has so many other times. That typical insecurity bubbling back up to the surface, a Roman with no Reigns, a tribal chief with no tribe, and now his wise man becoming an advocate again. That's exactly what Cody Rhodes promised would happen 1 year ago. I believe on the go home to WrestleMania, perhaps a week earlier. All of that completely played in storyline, especially if you remembered all the story beats. The one problem is that at its baseline, Chris, in reality, the favor is a 60-year-old dude who does not get physical or interfere in matches, standing in a different guy's corner. Yes, They explained why it matters beyond that, right? But Punk's determination to force Reigns out of his comfort zone, it's missing one key detail. Why? Why was it so important that Roman be handicapped mentally entering this match? It gives Punk an advantage, but an advantage to win what? And that goes back to what we discussed last week. This is a star-studded triple threat main event match, literally loaded with star power. 3 of the 5 most popular superstars in the entire company from the men's side. But it doesn't have as significant stakes as it should. Something to take this incredible storytelling and make it matter in the grand scheme. If there was such a stake, the value of Heyman's presence suddenly increases exponentially. Instead of the value being that he could help Punk achieve something that Reigns wants, the value is his presence shaking Reigns off his game in a match that will end in a winner who is just a winner. Not everything needs to be for a title or a number one contendership, but that missing piece is why this feud is like a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10. So similar to last week, if I was grading this, A+ for Heyman. Showed immense emotion, truly made the favor feel like it mattered. A+, maybe A++ for Rollins. A total shit stir. Got to stand on top again, proving he has been right all along about Punk and Reigns. An A for Reigns, who was the heel of the segment, played his role perfectly. An A for Punk, who told the story, set the stage well. A for execution. They did the absolute best they could given the story beats. But yes, being critical, it should be hotter given the prominence of all three of those guys and what that should mean, them fighting each other in the main event of WrestleMania.
I have a larger issue that I'm going to wait until we recap what happened on Raw. But in terms of this segment, it was good. Like the energy was there. Everybody was there in person. Everything they said was logical. It was good. But it is just a little weird to me again that the favor that has been hanging over all of this since War Games is just stand at a different part of the ring. Like I don't understand why the favor wasn't make it the main event. And you could say, well, does Paul Heyman have that power? Well, he kind of implied it last week.
Reigns implied it.
He's like,
Reigns assumed that was the favor.
Yeah. So like, which would have made sense and would have made it all a bit more emotional to me. I think Heyman getting Punk in the main event is more interesting than Heyman standing in a different part of the ring, or I guess presumably maybe coming out with him for the entrance.
You would assume it's that it's preparing him for the match and also him not being behind Reigns. It's more about, this is what Punk said, it's not so much about Heyman being in his corner, it's about Heyman not being in Reigns' corner.
But like Roman has fought solo, when the new bloodline is around and interfering and doing stuff. It's not like Roman Reigns has never like been in a dangerous situation man-to-man wise wrestling. So it is what it is.
To be fair, Solo Sikoa is not CM Punk nor Seth Rollins.
But you had the Tama Tonga and Fatu and all those other people around interfering and like Paul. It's not like Paul Heyman's going to jump in and cost Roman the match necessarily. Heyman he rarely ever actually interferes,
but
or at least gets physical.
That goes back to the point I was making though. If this was a title match and Reigns was champion, or it was a number one contendership, or there was something else on the line, I don't want to give you like a shitty example, but someone banned from a certain brand, Raw or SmackDown, or not able to challenge for a title for a calendar year, or if there was something at stake, then taking Heyman away from Reigns and shaking his confidence and throwing him off his game, that would be meaningful because winning the match would mean something. Winning this match doesn't mean anything.
If really. Roman loses, what does it mean?
Exactly.
It doesn't mean anything.
It means he needs Heyman. And then Heyman goes back with him and you're like, okay.
Yeah. So I have another thought, but it's more tied into Raw. So I'll hold that.
Before we get to that, I do have a couple more areas to discuss from this topic. There was another part of this booking that may have been lost on many because it was glossed over so quickly in Punk's promo. I referenced the Cody promo from a year ago, which I presume most of you remembered since it was so recent. But the Punk and Heyman part of this storyline, it harkens back to something that transpired 12 years ago. Now, Punk properly mentioned it in his promo that Heyman made him a promise on Raw back in the day, and he was going to hold him to that as his best friend. But he didn't articulate it, nor did he go beyond just referencing it. So I'm going to play for you what that conversation was 12 years ago on Raw in 2013.
I am going to walk down that aisle with you one day. No time soon. I get it. You need your space, and I respect that as your best friend. But I'm going to walk down that aisle with you one day when you're challenging for the WWE Championship. I am going to walk down that aisle with you one day when you, sir, are where you rightfully belong in the main event at WrestleMania. That's my dream.
It's his dream. And Chris, it's a pretty damn important story beat. I truly believe it would have vastly improved this segment if Punk paused when he mentioned this, pointed to the Titantron mid-promo, and played that clip. Because if WWE had done that, like it would have back in the day, you could have cut to Reigns' face dropping, and the crowd would have delivered that, oh shit, groundswell reaction that this segment needed. Instead, WWE counted on fans remembering the specifics on their own, which was faulty. My guess and hope was that it would get shown at some point. over the next 4 shows to come. Because
Yes.
on Friday night, Chris, if they had done it just like I explained in the middle of that segment, you would have gotten such a reaction from that crowd, and the whole thing would have hit so much stronger. And instead, they decided, now we're going to leave that kind of floating in the air.
So, and then they do show that on Raw. Like you tweeted out the clip after SmackDown. I had not remembered the specifics of it. And so when I saw it from the Getting Over account, I was like, oh, that is really relevant. I'm surprised they didn't show that. And then they did show it on Raw.
Wait, when did they show it Monday night?
It was I don't think it was leading into the main event. I think it was at some point during the show. But I remember because they had the old Raw logo in the corner of the screen with the date, like whatever month it was, 2013.
Oh, I must have, because I was catching up on Raw after it ended because I was watching the National Championship. I must have seen like, oh, it's a recap package, and just fast forwarded over it. I didn't even know they played it Monday night.
Yes, so they did, and I'm not saying they did just because you tweeted the clip.
No.
They did, and
they planned
and they
it.
realized,
Yeah.
oh, we referenced something that was said. We should show this.
But don't you know, back in the day, someone would like point to something. It could be an old promo or something that happened off screen, and they'd be like, check this out. And then you'd look at the Titantron. It got overplayed. That would happen 8 times per episode of TV. But WWE doesn't really do that anymore. So one time here, it would have been perfect in this moment, right?
Correct.
Wanted to end the breakdown of SmackDown on one more topic. There's a great through line here, Chris, to a Reigns Rock feud at WrestleMania 42 if WWE goes in that direction out of all of this. It starts last year where everything was rolling along perfectly fine for Reigns, and then Rock got involved. Perhaps he didn't cost Roman the title, but he certainly didn't help him retain it. Then he makes good with Cody over the last year, and even if that was all a facade, he sides with not only Cody, tries to, but then sides with John Cena, who aided in Reigns losing his title last year at WrestleMania and disrespected him in kayfabe during his career over doing what he could to build Reigns back into a champion, this being The Rock. It's extremely easy to transition into that feud and actually have a legitimate reason for Reigns and Rock fighting, as opposed to last year when it was like the most surface level booking of all time. We're family and we should fight for the title at WrestleMania. It was always ridiculous. But here, Reigns actually has reason to hate and distrust Rock. And I took that coming out of this segment and really everything that's happened over the last calendar year.
Well, and also, I mean, since last year, we've had the layup. The Rock pinned Cody at WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
And Roman didn't, and Roman lost.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Roman Rock, it actually will sell itself now if they ever decide to get to it. Speaking of Rock, are we going to talk Cody Cena on this show? Because there wasn't anything.
We will. Let's touch on it at the very end of this main event, because it is a main event and we'll discuss it. But that's the point I was going to make. So we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
So let's move to Raw, because I know you wanted to talk about Raw. Heyman main evented that show Monday night. He made 2 statements. He will always be loyal to Reigns, his tribal chief, and he will always be loyal to Punk, his best friend in the world. And because of that, he will not be disloyal to either of them. He was ready to make something else clear when Rollins interrupted, he was dressed normal again, dude. My gimmick is done. I loved comparing him to inanimate objects. This might have been the single best outfit that Rollins has worn in the last 2 years. He just had this long coat that was kind of feathery a little bit and what looked like jeans on. He looked like a normal human being again.
And then at the end of the segment, when he's just jacketless with the jeans, very much Drew McIntyre in jeans vibe. Looked good.
Drew McIntyre in his black jeans, yeah. But Rollins, in this case. Rollins questioned which side Heyman will be on because it's impossible to support both men. Instead, Rollins contended Reigns doesn't respect nor give a shit about Paul. He just uses him as an errand boy. Proof being Roman ghosting Heyman after losing the WWE Championship and allowing Solo Sikoa to basically abuse him and then massacre him in his hometown in front of his children. Rollins pointed out that Punk wasn't there to help him either, which a best friend would be, and that Seth was the top choice to join the War Games team, not CM Punk. Remember, Punk isn't there to make friends. He's there to make money. The only reason Punk wound up helping is because Heyman was willing to give him a favor. And I'll tell you what, these are straight facts, homie.
Thank you.
Heyman was emotionally affected by these truths. Rollins' solution? Heyman should remove himself from the match, let the 3 of them battle for the soul of the industry. And if Heyman won't do that himself, Rollins will happily do the privilege with a quick stomp. Rollins started poking, slapping, even shoving him. Heyman snapped. So Rollins then shoved him into a corner. Punk saved. Punk got the upper hand initially. Rollins baited him into the ring, hit a stomp, and then as Heyman bent over his friend's body, Rollins feigned a stomp of Paul, but he pulled up short, saying Heyman now owed him a favor. This was excellence from Rollins on Monday night. Finally, a segment where he doesn't just completely shine as a character in the background, but he gets totally over on the mic. He stands tall and confident at the end of the show, and he wins a beatdown as well. This was Seth operating at top tier form on the road to WrestleMania. He spliced together a little Architect, a little Messiah, a little bit of the original Rollins as well. He brought the storyline full circle as well. He shared his perspective on why the favor is actually meaningless because Heyman cannot be trusted. But more importantly, because neither Reigns nor Punk can be trusted. And they've proven that time and again. It would be completely out of pocket, as the kids say, if this match ends with Heyman advocating for Rollins. I doubt that happens, but it would have in the Attitude Era. Rather, what I believe will happen is that Heyman's going to be in Punk's corner. He's going to get conflicted when faced with a key decision between Punk and Reigns, and that will ultimately lead to Rollins winning and Reigns feuding with Punk going into SummerSlam. When wrestlers spit facts and tell truths and bring stories together, it just makes everything better. One thing I do want to point out is that I believe some fans are taking Rollins saying Heyman now owes him a favor literally. I think he was basically just saying, I saved your life. Think about what I just said. The only way this could have been better is if Rollins was allowed to bring up Brock Lesnar, because Seth has been a thorn in Paul's side no matter who he's advocated for or served during his WWE career. That really would have been full circle. Oh, and the cherry on top of this really was Heyman, after being vulnerable for like 10 minutes, finally standing up for himself, which he has not done in a long, long time. I thought this was a tremendous segment from start to finish here. So Chris, tell me why I'm wrong.
It's not that you're wrong. And obviously the not so subtle subtext of this whole segment was Punk saved Heyman. So it's not just about money. He is a friend. And Reigns didn't save Heyman. So obviously Heyman should be closer with Punk than Roman. The story tells itself. It's all good. Segment was hot. Segment was good. I also wasn't sure about if Rollins was being literal or not with the favor thing. But my biggest problem right now is that this story now revolves around Heyman and not the wrestlers and what they're wrestling for, because they're not really wrestling for anything, is what we just said.
Right.
So like, if not for the people in the match, this is not a WrestleMania main event story, because there isn't really a story.
Oh, I disagree with that. I fully disagree with that. I have to interrupt you. It is a WrestleMania main event story.
Because there was so much attention on Heyman, and I felt this more after SmackDown, less, but you kind of said it too. Suddenly Rollins looked like the third man in a Punk Roman feud over Paul Heyman. Like Rollins is just sitting there laughing in the background all the time. So it was good for Rollins and Heyman to go one-on-one to kind of bring Seth back into this whole thing. But like that, it's like, whose side is Paul Heyman going? Like, who is Paul Heyman going to side with in a key moment is the main storyline going into the match.
It is.
And I worry that we just kind of sit around and wait for that moment to come when the match is going on.
Maybe. What I believe you're discounting. Sorry, I thought you were done. I apologize.
Yeah,
but
that's all.
no, that's my bad. I think what you're discounting though is fans love Paul Heyman.
They do.
So you're saying it's kind of centered around him. You're not wrong about that at all. But that's also not a negative. It's not like they're centering a feud around Zelina Vega when she was managing LWO, or like MVP when he was managing Hurt Business. It's Paul freaking Heyman.
Imagine if it plays out like this. Punk says he's owed a favor. We get to the contract signing. Heyman reveals that the favor was Punk gets to be in the main event of Mania. And Roman's like, what the heck, dude? And Heyman's like, don't worry, Tribal Chief, I'm still with you. And CM Punk's like, but Paul, you said you'd be there with me at Mania. And Heyman's like, I got to stick with my Tribal Chief. And he's in kind of everybody's kind of more emotionally attached to this, as opposed to just I call in the favor that you're in my corner, and then that's that. Like, it's kind of the same thing, but pulls on a lot more emotional heartstrings and makes part of that story Heyman getting Punk into the main event, which always felt like the easier and more natural and better story to tell. Am I off with that?
I think you are. I think this is a case, and I'm not trying to be overly critical of your take there. I think this is a case of you had it fantasy booked one way in your head and they didn't do that. And you just think that would be better. And that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're wrong.
It's not even changing anything. It's just changing how you did a couple of steps.
My point is,
which is, will Paul Heyman side with Roman or CM Punk? It's more, will Heyman turn on Roman to join CM Punk? That to me is a little bit more interesting than
that's the storyline they're telling though. So he is taking the favor and working with Punk out of obligation to his best friend. And yet he's telling Reigns, I'm still your wise man, dude. Nothing's changing. But in this case, a favor was promised, a favor is being granted. And this is not something that just happened in the last 5-6 months. It's something that goes back 12 years, which is why I'm doing this. But we still enter the match wondering, well, he's going to be with Punk. But when that moment comes and he has to make that choice, will he actually side with Punk over Reigns? Or does he have an obligation to Reigns because he saved his life and did all the things that Roman says he did? I don't think your booking changes that one iota. If you prefer it have gone that way, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. That's your preference. I disagree, though, that it would have been better. I believe the way they did this, to get to this point, I'll finish on this.
Yeah.
To get to this point, if this was going to be the booking and there wasn't going to be a greater stake and it was going to be Heyman and these three guys and the storyline was going to stay the same, I believe this was the right track for them to take. You wanted them to take a slightly different track. I'm not telling you that you're wrong, but I think it would have wound up in the exact same spot.
There's just less like mystery and intrigue going into this. Like he's going to be in Punk's corner, okay, and there's no stakes. Like if you just tweaked it a little bit.
But what are the stakes in what you're booking though? There's no extra stakes.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So you're pulling on a little bit of the heartstrings. The favor is that Heyman gets Punk into the main event, but he's sticking with Roman. But that, Paul, I want you to come out. I can't. And we do that for a couple of shows, and then maybe on the go home, Heyman makes the decision, I'm going to come with you down the ramp. Or
no,
maybe
but then he's literally thumbing his
throughout WrestleMania, and then when Punk comes out with Heyman in a surprise move, then it's like, or we get to Mania. Where's Paul Heyman? Nobody's seen him all day. Rollins comes out.
Roman comes that's out, not what you said initially.
And there's Heyman.
Yeah.
And boom, it's like, oh man, Heyman actually did it. Then you got energy and excitement, and the match starts, and then we're off. And it's like, just like little tweaks.
Now,
I think
but here's what I'm saying.
So much better.
That's not what you said initially. The idea of him not being there for like the go home week, and then you're wondering whose side is he going to be on and what's he going to do. That's intriguing. And
yeah,
I actually believe you're talking about what the favor is and what the favor is not. They could still do that over the next week. There's no reason they can't do exactly what you're talking about the exact same way they've done it here, where Heyman's now having second thoughts. Punk's like, I haven't heard from him. Reigns is like, I haven't heard from him either. Is he actually going to be in Punk's corner as he promised? Is he having second thoughts? Is he going to show up at all? Because Rollins told him, don't show up at all. That's the best thing you can do. So your booking is the last part of what you said is better, but that also might still happen. And I don't believe your path there would have made it better than this path. The favor being either one of those was rather irrelevant. I actually believe the favor of Heyman being in his corner, saying at least he would be in his corner, is stronger than just putting main event of WrestleMania in a contract. I mean,
that's fine. I'm not feeling any real emotions out of this other than outside of other than pro wrestling.
Because there's not a stake. That's why.
The only moment was when Heyman said it's in there and he knelt down to Punk and they kind of hugged and he kind of teared up a bit. That was the only moment where you really felt like a connection to the story. And other than that, it's just wrestlers doing wrestling things. And so I would like you said, there's still time, but I'd like a little bit more connection to this.
None of that's unfair. And we'll see what happens over the next 3 shows at this point, right? I do believe this is a legitimate WrestleMania main event. The storyline has been extremely strong. But is it missing that little bit where it matters beyond what just happens in that 25-minute stretch of wrestling? Yeah, that's what it's missing right now. And in not a dissimilar way, right? You have John Cena and Cody Rhodes. They took the entire week off. That's weak shit. We're on the road to WrestleMania, 2 weeks out. Now,
Yes.
I was glad, Chris, that Cody wasn't there without Cena. That was actually a positive. But Cena not being on the penultimate week to WrestleMania is a joke. This feud between them had 10 out of 10 potential, but they've only scratched the surface of what was possible because they spent that time in Europe not telling the story. Cena is not promoted for SmackDown this Friday. He's not promoted for Raw next Monday. He's not promoted for the Go Home SmackDown either the night before WrestleMania. Now,
He'll be somewhere.
he's going to be somewhere, but as of right now, we don't know where. And what my point is that last week we had that incredible segment between Cena and Cody. We needed 3 of those, not 1. And if we had 3 of them, then we'd be talking about this as, oh my God, this main event is going to be absolutely crazy because those guys cooked on the mic last week. And then they follow it up with this week doing absolutely nothing. If Cena is on set filming, why is he not cutting a promo like The Rock did last year? Why is Cody not doing something off screen at home with his family where someone catches up with him and he's like, not now. I don't want to think about this. Last week affected me. There are ways to tell stories beyond both guys standing in the middle of a ring, taking shots at each other. They did it last year on the road to WrestleMania. They're not doing it this year.
Paul puts in more effort when he's not there. You know, he'll always send in some sort of video. For the only thing for us to get on the second to last Raw for the night 2 main event being a music video about Cody, essentially, is ridiculous. Like, this build has sucked. Like, there were a couple of good moments, like the previous week, but it's mostly sucked. And let me ask you this. Do you think we will get The Rock at all before Mania?
It's really tough to say. We should. I think we'll get Rock Friday night before WrestleMania, the Go Home SmackDown.
It's got, or at least it's got to be something, because this entire Cena Cody thing started with The Rock, and all we've gotten is one mention from Cody about The Rock. You don't have to have The Rock every week there to do something, but they haven't even made it part of the story.
The fact, Chris, that we haven't seen Rock and Cena standing next to each other, 2-on-1, looking at Cody, and Cody realizing he's up against not just Cena, but Rock. And yeah, Travis Scott somewhere in the background. And so it's 2 behemoths, 2 of the 3 biggest superstars, 2 of the 4, biggest superstars in WWE history. And Cody has to go up 1-on-2 against them. The fact that we have not seen that since Elimination Chamber is ridiculous. And if we do get it Friday night on the Go Home SmackDown, if we do get that, it'll be nice. But what if we got that a week earlier? What if they kept telling us that this is important, that Rock is involved? What if Rock sent in his own promo like this week? What if on Raw, we got a tape promo from Rock? Hey, Cody, real cute. You got in some lines with Cena. You have no idea what's coming for you at WrestleMania. 10 seconds. That would have been better than nothing.
I don't understand it at all. Like, we're running out of time, and obviously you can do some good things in these last 3 shows, but like, Elimination Chamber was more than a month ago.
I know.
It was the biggest thing. It was talked about on First Take, John Cena turning heel. And that's it. You did nothing.
I do legitimately believe as well, and I do want to make this clear, and I also want to be fair. We are comparing WrestleMania 41 to WrestleMania 40, which was a landmark show, and it was built up to such a crazy degree. If we compared the build for WrestleMania 41 to WrestleMania 38, let's say, I think we're looking at it in a much different light, but they raised the stakes so much last year that we believe, rightly, that there's no reason for them not to be delivering on it. Okay, is it going to be as hot as 40? Probably not. Could it be 85% as hot? Yes, it could. Instead, it's like 65 to 70% as hot, which is not fair.
They put John Cena into the main event. This is completely fair to criticize how they've used them or not used them.
No.
They didn't have to do this.
It's fair. What I'm saying is to compare it to WrestleMania 40, which was a tentpole show. Every 10 years, they do this. They did it for 10. They did it for 20. They did it for 30. They did it for 40 as well, where they said, this is an epic WrestleMania, and a 41, a 42, a 43 is not going to be that. They don't do the same thing.
that's okay. I'm comparing them to the standard that they set. They brought Triple H out and said this era to start off.
No,
WrestleMania.
I agree with that. Yes.
So like, that's the bar, man. You set the bar there,
Well,
and it's simply just these people not showing up. I don't.
Yeah.
Doing nothing, not sending a video in, not nothing, barely reminding us of what has happened.
It's them not showing up.
No build. There's been a couple of promos, only one of them, 1.5 of them, like really, like built a story. It's been more than a month. The show's less than 2 weeks out. It's the like they did something that springs a headline and then they just kind of we'll get back to it in a month and a half for WrestleMania, and it's just like. If they weren't available, do something different or plan it better. Last year, The Rock's cutting 30-minute promos from his gym.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's that? Like, there was an effort put in last year. That's what's missing.
No, that's completely fair. It's tough to expect Cena or anyone else to do what Rock does, even Reigns. It's very tough to have them cut extemporaneous, and obviously they don't need to be 30 minutes. They could be 7 minutes, right? Extemporaneous promos in their free time to build all this. And, I don't need a facsimile of the build for WrestleMania 40 ahead of WrestleMania 41. But it should be something like it. That's my point, is if you got 85 to 90% of the way there, knowing that it's going to be very tough to build a show that was built the way WrestleMania 40 was, then we wouldn't be, I hate to use the word complaining, we wouldn't be as critical of the entire build as we have been. But Chris, I don't believe it's just about the two main events. And we do need to move on. We have a lot more to talk about. But it's about the start and stop nature of the Gunther and Jey Uso feud. It's about them wasting 3 weeks in Europe, really not developing stuff, just stringing people along rather than having concerted build to major matches. They just announced the triple threat for the women's title on Raw. There's one more Raw until WrestleMania. They're less than 2 weeks away at this point. Why are you waiting until 2 weeks out to cement a major match for the show with your 3 best women in your entire division? And then this week alone, I think they announced like 5 matches for WrestleMania. Why are you not doing some of those at least earlier? The entire build has been bungled to a degree. I'm not saying it's bad. It is not bad. I'm excited for WrestleMania. I think the card is extremely strong. But there has been a lot left to be desired, and it's their own fault. They paced it poorly. They took those 3 weeks in Europe, and they said, these just don't matter. If those didn't exist, and we went right after Elimination Chamber into the booking we've had the last couple of weeks, we would have a totally different perspective on the entirety of this build to WrestleMania 41. We got a ton left to talk about. Some of those matches I just discussed, plenty more. We're going to do it in the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
Nick Aldis opened Hour 3 of SmackDown with a sad introduction of Kevin Owens, saying there's a fine line between wrestling through injuries and never stepping foot in the ring again. Owens, in a Bret Hart jacket and Finn Balor shirt, said he's paying a price for wrestling over the last 25 years, a serious neck injury that requires immediate surgery. He said he didn't know when he would wrestle again, but he's learned not to take his career for granted. Randy Orton entered wearing street clothes, an entire black sweatsuit. I swear, Chris, if I did not know any better, I would say this was done after what we said last week about him always being in full gear, because he has never dressed like that before. And 1 week later, he's out there in regular clothes. Orton said something to Owens on the apron before he walked out and briefly got into it with a fan KO. Aldis told Orton he no longer has a match for WrestleMania, so Randy straight up RKO'd Aldis. Up until that RKO, given the way Orton came out after Owens, I thought there was a chance that this whole thing was a ruse. And the crowd clearly felt the same way, because they did not have the emotional reaction that they otherwise would have for Owens' speech. Now, maybe this could have been handled better to make it clear that it was not a salmon jacket situation, but alas, this sucks on so many levels, most significant of which is Owens' health. Obviously, we wish him the absolute best. Hope he is able to come back as soon as possible at 100% and not a moment sooner. It sucks for WrestleMania. The Orton-Owens match was easily one of the best built and most exciting matches set for the show. We've talked about that for weeks. It certainly sucks for my fantasy booking. of Owens and Sami Zayn in 2025 into 2026. And it obviously sucks for Orton, who is now seemingly without an opponent for the show. I have a guess on what's going to happen there, but Chris, what are your thoughts about all of this with KO?
Yeah, I mean, first thing, obviously, like you said, it sucks. Kevin Owens was in the main event of night one of WrestleMania 2 of the last 3 years. He's always been obviously such a good hand, and because his character has kind of been like a bad guy who kind of lies and cheats. I didn't know it was real until the whole segment was done. Like, I waited to tweet the news because I was like, I don't want to make sure I'm not getting worked here or something like that. And also, like, Kevin seemed kind of like more kind of mad about the whole thing rather than like sad. If that, like, he sounded like he was just told 5 minutes prior that he's not going to be at Mania, and he's like still kind of processing it and like mad about it. And I think that kind of added to a little bit of the, are we sure this is real type of thing. But yeah, man, it sucks. The neck injuries are obviously the big ones for pro wrestlers. And if he's been dealing with this for, I think he said like 4 months, that includes that Cody Rhodes match at Royal Rumble, which was pretty brutal. So I'm sure he's been through hell, and just hope he can come back. I mean, he's over 40 now, I think. So he's probably getting close to the end of a career. It spanned like 25 years at this point. So
well, you would say that, but dudes are wrestling until like 46 and 48. And obviously some of them in their 50s now. He probably won't,
sure,
but some of them are.
For sure. But just hope he can come back as soon as possible. He's been great. He's been carrying so many feuds over the last year. He's such a reliable guy.
Owens and Drew McIntyre, man. Where would WWE be without both of them? They have carried so many different feuds and major storylines and connected the dots between one major storyline and another. They're so valuable to WWE. In terms of what happens at WrestleMania, here's my bet. The RKO on Aldis leads to him decreeing next week that Orton will have a match against an opponent of his choosing. There was another smoke-filled vignette that included much more dark imagery, but still no specifics on SmackDown. Notable to me was that unlike the last one, there were no numbers shown. So my prediction is that Aleister Black returns at WrestleMania, fights Orton. Certainly not a Cody Rhodes-like return, but it would be cool as hell visually. And in Las Vegas at WrestleMania with smart fans, they would pop for someone like Black returning. I have 2 more options though, Chris. One of them, I'm not going to say the name because you don't want to be spoiled. I don't think it's fair for everyone else. Someone else has reportedly been signed who was a free agent. It could be that person. But there is one other name that came to mind. What is one of the greatest returns in WrestleMania history, Chris, besides Cody Rhodes? Recent, by the way.
The Hardy Boys.
Hardy Boys. And WWE has a deal with TNA Wrestling.
They do.
It wouldn't necessarily make much sense, but from a WrestleMania moment and pop standpoint, can you imagine Orton in that ring waiting for an opponent and Jeff Hardy's music hits and he comes down and we get Orton Hardy at WrestleMania 42? So look, I think it's going to be Black. It could be the other person whose name I'm not going to mention, but I think the move is Jeff Hardy because there's no one currently on WWE's roster who's not involved in something that would be better than Jeff Hardy.
I like that Jeff Hardy thought. I hadn't thought of that until just right now. And like a late call up, like, hey, can we make a deal?
Yeah. It's a match. The guy's wrestled a million matches in his life.
I mean, and also, by the way, they've been on NXT.
They not only have they been on NXT, they've wrestled 2 of their best matches in years on NXT.
Yeah. So like they've been wrestling for WWE. I think that'd be a really easy fix. My first thought was Nick Aldis.
I saw people saying that. In what world does an active wrestler hit a finishing move on a general manager and the GM's first thought is, okay, I'm going to wrestle you in a short-term, like one-off thing? It never happens.
So like I interviewed Aldis last year around WrestleMania, and he had just had some surgery or something like that, but he had still hoped to get back in the ring one day. And we always fantasy booked him versus Pierce.
Well, that has to happen
or something like that
at some point.
I still think it'd be good,
but
that was the first thought in the moment. Aleister Black, I'm glad they're being a little more subtle with it after I've complained about that on the show a couple of times. Don't tell us who it is. I don't know. Weirdly, I don't know if Aleister Black is big enough for a Mania return.
I believe
Like,
that's true. I think that entrance at night with a smart fan base would be enough to carry it.
But it's also less of a smart fan base than it used to be.
That's true. It's a great point.
So I would love it. I love for that to be him and for Aleister Black to get that entrance and that music back. That'd be great. Jeff Hardy would be great. I have no idea who you're talking about for the second person. I don't want to know.
Yeah, that's why I didn't say it. Yeah.
I appreciate that because I would like to be surprised.
One other point of order just before we move on. Shortly after Aldis debuted on SmackDown, Chris, Orton RKO'd him, and he got fined $50,000, but he paid $100,000, double the amount, because he said that would be for next time. So that's actually a bit of long-term storytelling where he prepaid his fine. So Aldis, he should on Friday try to fine him, and Orton be like, no, dude, I paid for that already. And then Aldis is like, all right, fine. You're going to have a match at WrestleMania against an opponent of my choosing. That's what I think is going to happen. Obviously, we didn't grade this good or bad or ugly. I mean, it's ugly, because it's ugly for Owens. So, different reason, but really sorry to hear that. It sucks that it happened at all. It sucks that it happened right on the road to WrestleMania, even more than it otherwise would. Gunther hit the ring in a striking gray suit with a red tie, presumably to represent Jimmy Uso's blood. And now that I'm actually thinking about it, Chris, he looked like Pee Wee Herman, but with a regular tie instead of a bow tie.
Is this the segment where we talk about Gunther's looks?
I mean, we can always talk about Gunther's
that we like to do.
Clothes.
He looked good. The jacket fit everything. He looked so much better with the dress.
But it was Pee Wee Herman-esque, right? It's the gray suit and red tie.
My thought wasn't Pee Wee Herman. My thought when he took off the jacket, he looked like Dilbert.
With the hair like slicked that way? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
It looked like he was like at the office.
Fair.
Keep the jacket on. It looked better.
Gunther was feeling himself even as Jay entered, dancing to his music as well. Jay ditched the colorful attire. He entered in all black, including his glasses, walked right up to the champion, slapped the microphone out of his hand. Jay said Gunther probably speaks to his mom about, regular family stuff, whereas Jay spent the last week talking to his mom about her oldest son being laid up in the hospital and why he was unable to protect him. Jay admitted to being afraid of Gunther, saying that he had him pegged and didn't need to get his family involved. But in his darkest hour, a light bulb went off for him. He's not afraid of Gunther anymore. Jay told Gunther to hug and kiss his family because he's going to pray for forgiveness over the man that he is going to become at WrestleMania. And Gunther actually looked affected, and he had no response, mostly because he had no mic. This was probably the best solo promo of Jay's career, not involving his family. I did leave it wishing he was a little bit more composed and thoughtful with some of his lines. I would have loved for him to explain specifically why he's no longer afraid of Gunther. The answer being because nothing Gunther could do going forward would be worse than what he already did to his brother. That is such a crucial point to not speak blatantly. I will admit, perhaps that's a nitpick because it was alluded to and implied during the promo. But if he had just stated that matter-of-factly, I think it would have hit harder. Allowing Jay to go full bore here on his own without a Gunther retort, that was the right decision. The feud was still at its hottest the 2 weeks after the Royal Rumble, but the last 2 weeks on Raw have done a great job atoning for that really rough month plus 4 to 6 weeks between. The only real criticism here was the crowd, which incessantly did the call and response yeet chant, despite Jay cutting a very serious promo. It didn't ruin it, but it certainly didn't help. I do truly believe, by the way, WWE is rolling with this Rocky IV storyline. Jimmy is Apollo Creed, Jay is Rocky, obviously, and Gunther is Ivan Drago. However, unlike Drago, Gunther actually showed some regret and guilt, and that was great. His confidence is shaken with 1 week to go, and now you actually believe Gunther might lose the title at WrestleMania. This was good.
Yeah, this was good. This was great. The content of Jay's promo was fantastic. The delivery was mostly fine. He needed to kind of start a bit quicker. It took a while before he kind of understood where he was going with the mom stuff. I thought he was going to start with a mom joke. I was confused. He gets there and Gunther's selling was good. And we don't need a pull apart brawl with these guys anymore because they've been together every single week for 2+ months. Honestly, this might have been a great home segment to the match. The fact that we have another show with them, I don't really know where you go. But it brought it all back around and was really good. And yeah, last 2 weeks of this have been fantastic.
It was probably positioned correctly because you generally, or at least WWE generally, wants the person who's going to lose to stand tall on the go home. So you probably need, I don't know what the hell they're going to do next week. You probably need Gunther to get one over on Jay, either verbally or physically or whatever the case might be. But had this been the go home, man, it would have hit. I mean, this was great. It really was. Jay deserves a lot of credit for this promo.
Yep, totally.
Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair had a face-to-face in the ring with Wade Barrett as moderator. Yeah, I was excited just to see this come up. I'm really excited about this one. Now, this is a rare segment I actually watched twice, Quist, because I wanted to break it down almost in a Zapruder film style. I'm afraid many of you won't get that reference, but you can Google Zapruder film with a Z. Barrett asked...
Hey, I live in Dallas. So
yeah, I know you get it. Yeah. You're also old.
Look, I can already tell this episode's going long, but look, it's the road to WrestleMania.
I don't care,
people.
Dude, I'm so tired. I haven't eaten dinner. It's so late. Like, I don't care. Let's just we're kicking ass here. Barrett asked why Flair ultimately chose Stratton, which is the question that we've been wondering for the last 2 months, and it should have been answered the week after she made the challenge. Flair's response: Stratton's desperation for a moment reeked, and Flair wanted to do charity work, showing there was no comparison between them. Quick aside, I will remind you, her initial promo after the Royal Rumble was that she wanted someone to step up and prove deserving of her challenge. That was the correct angle, because the choice was going to be a young talent. Instead, it's all about Charlotte, as it always is. It's all about her ego. Tiffy said Charlotte's biggest competitor has always been the fans. She will never win them over, and no matter what she accomplishes, she will never surpass her father. Stratton mocked her strut and got cheered, with the crowd pouncing on Flair with such vitriol, with such vociferous booing, that she false started her response, Chris, 5 times. I seriously counted. So Charlotte completely punted on her retort and said, you know what, Tiffany? You can have the last word. So Stratton said at her age, she was still trying to be a volleyball player drinking in her daddy's basement, while Tiffy is walking into WrestleMania as champion. If that wasn't planned, okay, that was a shot. Now, Stratton slightly fumbled her next line because she's so scripted. She said Charlotte may be the queen in the ring, but out of the ring, she ain't the queen of shit. Flair saw her stumble. She recognized that. And despite seconds earlier promising Stratton would get the last word, she completely jumped on top of the "you ain't the queen of shit" part by mocking Tiffy's squeaky voice. This is when it got uncomfortable. Then she tried to interrupt Stratton's final line again. She told her she was going to get the last word, that Flair would be professionally like she is personally, all alone. It seemed like that was the planned closer of the segment. But because Charlotte interrupted her so many times, she always works against her opponents instead of with them, which is what wrestling is all about. Because of those interruptions, Tiffy added a little extra at the end, saying her record outside the ring is 0-3, referring to her divorces. Knowing that could lead to like real life retaliation, Tiffy dropped the mic, slid out of the ring like a heel, as Flair flailing around like a punch-drunk boxer, trying to get in a lick before getting knocked out. She tried to shoot her back, basically saying, is that why Ludwig Kaiser, Stratton's boyfriend in real life, is in her DMs? Now, Chris, there's 2 ways to view this segment.
I'm sitting here thinking, whoa, we working, we shooting, huh?
Like Stone Cold?
Yeah.
There's 2 ways to view this segment, and neither of them is incorrect. The first is that Stratton got some much needed licks back on Flair and came out on top, as was seriously necessary given their segments to this point. The second is that this feud is an unmitigated disaster. And now that I think about it, I don't believe those takes are mutually exclusive views. Both of them are true. They have zero chemistry on the mic for 2 reasons. 1, because Stratton is fully scripted and Flair likes to operate fluidly. And 2, Flair's ego is so immensely fragile that she won't let her opponents get anything on her verbally. Not even a 25-year-old up-and-comer who needs to win promos to build a damn WrestleMania match. Now, don't get it twisted. Charlotte has allowed rivals to take personal shots at her in the past. And I believe she again allowed that to happen here with the alone comment. That was planned. But it was clear to me breaking this down that Flair's worst instincts took over by trying to pounce on Stratton's slip. Why? Maybe because she can't help herself. Maybe because she felt like she got nothing in the segment because the crowd booed the ever-loving shit out of her. But unlike that split-screen interview where Tiffy got railroaded, she refused here and she swung back with that 0-3 line. And she does deserve some blame for that, even if it feels deserved for Charlotte, Given the split screen and not letting Tiffy get the last word in this segment as promised, she made fun of her voice, which was clearly improv. None of this is even mentioning how visibly rattled and shaken to her core Flair got emotionally from the fans booing her. I cannot remember the last time I have seen a veteran wrestler affected like that in a segment like this. It was like watching a notorious bully get her comeuppance in real time. Most notable out of all of this is that Flair had straight up go away heat for real. It might be the most hate she's ever gotten in her entire career, and deservingly so, given the way this feud has been built in storyline and the way she acted in reality. At first, I wasn't sure how to grade this, Chris. On rewatch, it was crystal clear. It was simultaneously immensely uncomfortable and also their single best interaction during this entire feud. It felt like watching one of those housewives shows in real time. A total clusterfuck. In some ways, you could even consider it classic professional wrestling. And the best pro wrestlers know if you encounter a situation like that, use it to make yourself money. So I'm going to debut a new grade on this show, Chris.
Oh boy.
This was a messy good. So messy that it was entertaining. So messy, it has me looking forward to this match way, way more than I was previously.
It's exactly what it is. It's 100%. This build has been terrible. The story has been inconsistent and nonsensical. So what do? You blur the lines and make us wonder if you're shooting. And you know what? That usually solves a lot of the problems in a short period of time. So okay. There's another thing that happened outside the ring that I don't know if it tied into this or not. But I get an email on Thursday from a random PR person who tells me that tomorrow, Friday,
I got the same email.
Charlotte Flair will be on some talk show with someone named Sherry Shepherd to break her silence on her divorce with Andrade. And that I watched, and that clip came out Friday during the day. So I wondered if Tiffany bringing that up was maybe she saw it earlier in the day, if it was a weird pro wrestling shoot, like kind of cross promotion type of stuff. But the timing of that was very suspect to me. So you got that email too. So I just wanted to let readers know that Charlotte Flair wanted her divorce that day. So
yeah. So
whether is it fair to bring up in that sense? Like, I think it is, because Charlotte's talking about it like that week.
Just to clarify, my take is that they planned to bring that up in this promo, but Stratton went beyond what they initially planned to say and hit harder than she otherwise would have because Charlotte jumped all over her again.
Yeah.
And the only reason Charlotte did that is because her ego was so shattered by the fact that she couldn't cut the original part of her promo that was planned.
Yeah. So ultimately, this was a messy good. I think that's a good way to put it. I think my biggest problem with this, and it's too late to do this now, but like this whole thing was meant to be, presumably, a crowning moment for Tiffany. But we have gotten none of her story, and she is acting almost as heelish as Charlotte throughout this whole thing. Like, where is Tiffy's background? Talk to us about, like, she like knows the Gagne family, like she trained with them, like they got her into wrestling, like she was a really good gymnast. Like we don't know who Tiffany Stratton is as a person. I'm not like rooting for her because she has a great story. She's just bragging about how great she is and better than Charlotte, and already has the title. So it's like, I don't think Tiffany winning here like will help her at all, because none of us have gotten connected to her at all. I think that's been the biggest fumble of this whole thing. Evolved into just like
that's not only her fault though.
With each other.
Yeah, that's not only her fault though. I mean, it's not. Sorry, that's
that's not her fault. That's
yeah. Let me clarify. That's not only creative's fault though. Yeah. Charlotte knocked this entire thing off the rails.
For sure, and like with what they did in that interview a couple of weeks ago, I don't know what she's trying to prove. Is she just trying to put Tiffany in an awkward spot to see if she can handle it, like John Cena did to Roman Reigns?
But again, like, I said this last week. If you're going to do that, you don't do it on the road to WrestleMania. You do it on a B-level pay-per-view. You test somebody, you know?
Or you like put them out there and let them struggle. You don't continually keep jumping on them.
Right, exactly.
Like that's
compounding the issue.
If she's trying to prove a point in real life. Again, I don't know what the heck is going on here. I'm interested, but I'm less interested in like who wins the match. I'm more interested in like what's going to happen in real life type of stuff, or what's going to happen the next time they're in the ring, like almost like internet drama rather than a pro wrestling story.
Speaking of internet drama, Ludwig Kaiser responded to this on social media, and then on the international stream of Raw Monday night, he said he was going to address the elephant in the room, and then he just cut a regular promo for himself. I thought that was pretty damn funny. Kaiser's done a great job kind of capitalizing on this, so I just wanted to bring that up. Now let's keep going here. Raw opened with Adam Pearce welcoming Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley to the ring in order, and holy shit, these three ladies went black leather shorts, black leather skirt, black leather vest, one after another after another.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
I was up all night.
The shock of all shocks was that they decided to go black leather and Io didn't wear her famous pants. Like, what are we doing here? Notable was Belair in all black, including lipstick. Looked a little heelish there. Pierce took responsibility for making Belair a referee last week, saying he was wrong thinking that they could actually be professionals. So he decreed that they would just have a triple threat match. That's it. He just said it. Bianca said that she's done everything she was supposed to do. Yet Rhea just walked in and got added, but she doesn't care because Belair was hardened by the Naomi Jade Cargill deal, and now she can overcome anything. Ripley tried to answer, but Belair shut her up, shoved the contract in her chest. They again shoved Io aside, so Io spiked the mic and hit a springboard missile dropkick, knocking Rhea into Bianca. And the way they collided, like legit, I think she went like chin into her shoulder, and that's not a small shoulder to go chin first into. Now, I enjoyed how Io stood tall with Rhea and Bianca too focused on one another to pay attention. That's the clear story that they're telling. This was extremely frustrating for a few reasons. First, while the pie facing of Io, those first two encounters, that played perfectly well, continuing to do it for an entire month, that visual of her being disrespected over and over and over, it naturally reinforces to the audience that she's less important than the other two. Now, she is getting the biggest babyface cheers of her entire career on the main roster. Even against Ripley, fans are cheering Io beating up Rhea. So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that's what the visual tells us. Second, I was okay with Belair not protesting because she wants to beat the shit out of Ripley. That plays, it's logical. But Pierce at least could have taken the time to explain his decision rather than just decreeing it, given how against it he was previously. He straight up refused to do this 3 weeks ago. Third, they really should have spent more time on what Bianca said, that she went out and earned this. Rhea was just given it. That's really a bunch of bullshit if you think about it. Ripley deserves to be exposed for that. She's not getting exposed for that because the fans just cheer her no matter what she does. It doesn't matter to them. She complained her way to a WrestleMania title match despite not deserving it after multiple opportunities, same as she did when Liv Morgan was champion. Now, despite that, and those are legit criticisms, I believe, I'm giving it a light good. I just feel like this could have been so much better for all three of them. WWE, with these three, they had a legitimate night one main event caliber match here. And it's going to be incredible when the bell rings. But it's like they actively booked it in a way so it's not seen as main event caliber. That way people are not as disappointed. When this match was announced Monday night, Chris, Triple H took to social media. He called them the three pillars of the women's division. I wouldn't say pillars, not the correct term. That's the four horsewomen, but they are the three strongest legs of the modern division. There's no question about that. And all I've wanted is for Io to be put to this level of prominence alongside Rhea and Bianca. That's nice to see. I love the booking of the match that they're actually doing it. The triple threat makes sense. I like the storyline. But Monday night, could it have been better? Yeah, it could have been a lot better.
To your point, like, yes, Io is getting huge babyface cheers, so what they're doing is ultimately working. But to me, this whole thing is to see Rhea Bianca without Io, even without the title. Like, it doesn't even feel like the title is the most important thing now. It feels like Bianca trying to prove herself and Rhea and Bianca just continually being mad at each other is kind of the story here. Bianca was like very close to heelish in this, and she was great. Like we've said, like, she will be an amazing heel on the main roster if they ever let her do it. And I don't know if they don't want to do it at the same time John Cena's going on, but after getting pretty much booed in Europe it felt like she came out here trying to lean into that more to see if she would continue to get booze and kind of be more of a heel in this, because there isn't a heel in this. It should be Rhea, but everybody loves Rhea. So it is what it is. Also, Pierce accidentally said that Rhea was in Judgment Day right at the beginning.
I noticed that.
And Cole was there to fix it. But yeah, mostly I guess I hope Rhea's okay because of that head to Bianca.
Mhm.
It was so weird because she like puts her hand up to her chin, like hit me right here, and then she gets hit from behind and her jaw goes right into Bianca's shoulder.
Right.
And they didn't cut back to Rhea until like the very end. So I hope she's okay. I assume she is, but that was a pretty rough bump there.
What was your grade? Did you have one?
I guess a good. I haven't loved the build, but the segment itself was fine.
Drew McIntyre, wearing the eye patch, ranted to Damian Priest through the camera on SmackDown, reminding him about every way he screwed him over the last year, saying all he asked for was a verbal explanation. Instead, Priest attacked him out of the shadows, getting glass shards in his eye. And now, Drew said he needs to pray, and we all know what happens when he prays. I really like that line. Priest later responded in kind, saying he did his job at WrestleMania as Money in the Bank holder. McIntyre screwed himself due to his Punk feud at Clash at the Castle and Money in the Bank. Priest beat him fair and square at Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, but he's the only one who cost him a spot. He said Drew is a junkie who gets off on jokes, cheap pops, and playing victim. Priest said if McIntyre wants a villain, he'll be one, and he'll make him his victim at WrestleMania. This was a solid promo from McIntyre, not his best, but the backing track to it, I just thought it was a really weird music choice. Priest ethered him in response. Well, to a degree. He was far more scripted. His logic did not track at all, but he was strong in his presentation. It's not really McIntyre's fault that Punk screwed him twice. Drew always just said Damian got lucky those times, but he was forceful and confident, and it did a lot to generate interest in his perspective ahead of the match. It was a light grade for me after McIntyre spoke, but I went full good after Priest spoke. Credit where it's due. It keeps inching up, Chris, the interest level. I'm at like a 7.5 now. They might get me to an 8 by the time WrestleMania starts.
Yeah, this was solid. I think I'm less interested in the you cost me stuff. It's more the Priest saying stop playing the victim stuff. That was good. That was a really good comeback. And I guess to tease Drew McIntyre coming on the show, he will say some stuff that people will be interested in.
We ask him directly about this feud, about Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk, about the Royal Rumble. Yeah, a lot of good stuff there, and you will hear it all this week on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Rey Fenix made his debut against Nathan Frazier. There was an incredible video teaser for Fenix preceding his actual entrance. I loved that. Despite that being incredibly sick, the entrance left a lot to be desired. It paled in comparison to that of Penta, and it was the typical Def Rebel theme, screaming a word before a generic rock song. I couldn't even decipher the first word, but Chris, it sounded exactly like Logan Paul's intro. When he just screams that one word, I still don't even know what Logan Paul is screaming, but it sounded identical to that. Commentary wasted no time telling us that he was Penta's brother. As for Frazier, what a pleasant surprise as an opponent. Unfortunately, he immediately botched a tope suicida with his feet catching the middle rope. That's got to suck. Frazier surprisingly got a lot of offense. He missed a Phoenix splash with a rough landing, allowing Phoenix to capitalize with a rope run PK and basically Emerald Flosion, but Frazier landed on his shoulder blades instead of his back. Not really sure what happened there. Phoenix ultimately won with the Mexican Muscle Buster, just dropping one big move after another in the finish. I'd probably flip those. I'd make the Flosion move his finisher. I believe that's called a fire driver, but I would flip those. The Muscle Buster is a good move, but it doesn't need to finish a match. It got a bigger pop. The fire driver did. After the match, Phoenix said it was not just a debut of Rey Fenix, but his rebirth, and that he waited his whole life to say he's a WWE superstar. Then he bowed to the fans. Extremely strong debut. And given how they changed Penta's presentation like 10 different times, I'm sure there's some refining to come for Phoenix, but the music was the worst part. They got to fix that. Both guys were clearly nervous in this match. They're usually crazy smooth, but a couple parts, they were uncharacteristically clunky, including that fire driver. Ironic, by the way, because I just recently talked about Jey Uso doing the Rikishi driver, which is a very similar move to that. I digress. B plus, 3.75 stars. A shame the ceiling for this was way higher, but in terms of a debut, really tough to ask for more. I'm glad Frazier got his opportunity to shine, and I'm sure both would absolutely knock this out of the park in 2 weeks if they were given another opportunity. Last thing I'm going to say, I saw criticism that Phoenix's debut, that's what they're calling him in WWE, was cut and paste from Penta because he had a great match and then cut a promo afterward. I mean, sure, I guess he said something completely different than Penta did, and they let him speak immediately after a great match. I was fine with it. This was very, very good.
Yeah, it was fine. I didn't think it was very, very good, but I thought it was good. I'll give this a good.
I didn't say great. Let's just be fair.
You said very, very good.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying I stayed lower than great.
Phoenix he's always more interesting as a wrestler than a character. I think Penix had his family there when he debuted. They kind of leaned into more character stuff with Penta.
By the way, you said Penix like Michael Penix Jr., just so you know, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they were similar, but like their logos are similar.
They're brothers. They're going to be a tag team. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting Phoenix to do much, I guess, until they eventually decide to do Lucha Brothers, which I think will be a huge hit. But because they kind of came in staggered because of things, and Penta turned out to be a big hit individually, I think you ride that for a little bit, and Phoenix kind of hangs around. He doesn't need to be thrown into anything. Just put on banger matches, kind of have that Dragon Lee role that was there for a while. And then when called upon, you jump into something.
The Lucha Brothers are going to do for the tag team division what Triple H thought Motor City Machine Guns were going to do. They are going to explode the tag team division. You get them with, and I'm going to say, luchador tag teams initially just because the matches are going to be incredible. But you get them with Alpha Academy, you get them with LWO, you get them with Los Garza, DIY. I mean, holy crap, the matches that are possible with the Lucha Brothers. Santos Escobar backstage put over Phoenix's debut to Legado del Fantasma, saying that's the type of performance he expects from them. Humberto said he's a flying lizard and a flash in the pan, so Escobar decided to make that match. I loved Berto actually showing some character here. We knew Phoenix was going to come in and fight luchadors, but creating a reason for a match rather than, oh, they're both Mexican, they should fight, that way he looks good, much better.
Yeah, it was fine. This was not much really to add.
No, great. Just wanted to mention it.
I think I said last week, I'm kind of liking the fire we're seeing from Santos.
I like what Santos is doing. I like what Los Garza are doing. Angel's not really talking that much, but Humberto is, and yeah, I'm into it. BFAB against Naomi was scheduled, but Jade Cargill attacked during the entrance, which was Naomi's normal theme. Security pulled Cargill off, allowing Naomi to get in the ring, with Jade pleased that she gave her friend the upper hand at a minimum, her friend, of course, being BFAB. Naomi, pushed BFAB's head backwards into the bottom turnbuckle while hanging in a tree of woe, and then she won with a combination between a Kamagoye and a Codebreaker. Both guys on commentary called it a lung blower, but it was at her jaw, so how is that a lung blower? So I don't know what they were talking about. Naomi immediately grabbed the mic and dared Jade to come at her, so Cargill appeared behind and caved in her chest with a kick. Security stopped her from hitting Jaded, so she just beat up some dudes. Aldis came out acknowledging the only solution was Jade versus Naomi at WrestleMania. Chris, this marks the first one-on-one women's match in WrestleMania history without a title or a gimmick stipulation like bra and panties or something like that. And it's the first one at all in 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. And it's the first one at all in 20 years that just doesn't have a title on the line. Undoubted progress, completely deserved for this storyline. Perhaps not the best overall segment because these two have been on fire recently, but more than enough 2 weeks out to make the match that we all knew and hoped really was coming. Great decision by WWE. Definite good look for Naomi here, flashing some heel work against BFAB, and totally the right decision by putting this on WrestleMania. I think I just said that twice.
So all this announced this backstage, right?
No, he came out on the mic and said it.
Okay. Scratch that. Let me start over. I was trying
to.
No
problem.
They had a bunch of matches now last week. I'm trying to remember which ones were.
No, he came out. That. Yeah. They got a pop.
Yep. Yeah, it's good to happen. It's deserved. There's a story to it. And I like that all this came out and announced it to the crowd, because there were some other matches announced for Mania that were done very unceremoniously. So this thumbs up from me.
Absolutely. Is that, you gave a good for the overall?
Yeah, that was fine. Good.
Pierce on social media, we didn't even plan this, announced Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio in a fatal 4-way for the Intercontinental title, as we expected. Backstage,
That's my problem.
Yeah, Balor was conflicted how to feel about it. Liv Morgan pointed out she got it done because it gives them a greater chance to win the title for Judgment Day. Balor talked about all the ways people doubt Dom, saying it as if it was actually coming from him rather than other people, but he said that Dom would prove them all wrong. I know this match feels a bit convoluted, but this has a chance for the people involved to steal the show at WrestleMania. So we had Penta against Dominic. Penta dominated early. Dom hit the Mexican Destroyer kind of out of nowhere. Perfect execution. They flew on this move. He looked poised to hit the frog splash and win the match, only for Penta to get knees up. He soon won with sacrificing the Penta driver. Carlito attacked after the bell with a backstabber. Fans barked for Braun Breaker. He speared the life out of Carlito and somewhat Dom in succession. He took Penta out with 1-2, but it was far worse than the first two. Balor caught Breaker celebrating with a sling blade and held up the title to a legitimate mix of like light cheers and boos. Then he avoided a spear as the only man not to take punishment from Breaker. Nice match, nice finish, nice post-match. Didn't break any new ground. The spear on Carlito was the highlight. Breaker flipped over after connecting on a running, flying spear. I have never seen someone do that before. He has the greatest spear of all time. Full stop. The dude is a genetic freak. He's not normal. Dominic actually got Let's Go Dom chants during this match. That's wild. He and Liv Morgan are both getting over as faces. That's crazy. Good enough. I wish we had a meatier storyline around this. I wish the match wasn't announced on social media. But you consider where the IC title was a year ago and look at where it is now. And you're saying, man, that match last year was built and it felt like a big deal. This just feels like it got thrown on the card.
Well, because it did. First off, until the end, you're selling that spear. That is the spear I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable. I've watched it. He's just like running, and it's like too short of a distance for him to slow down, and he can't destroy Carlito, so he's got to like make it a little bit more glancing. And thankfully, he's okay. Didn't get hurt. It was insane. So that got to talk about that. Also, a cheap plug for myself. I talked to Braun last year for a story on him playing football, and I asked him about the spear and why it's the greatest spear of all time. That interview is up on my own YouTube channel. Go look at that. But this, my only problem here is announcing the match on Adam Pearce's social media.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Announce it in front of the crowd, like you just did with Jade and Naomi there. Like, every WrestleMania match should get the announcement of a match. Every single WrestleMania match should be a big deal.
You're giving Penta
the crowd to get a reaction.
You're giving Penta, a newly debuted superstar who was insanely over, and Dom, who was crazy over in this match, a title match at WrestleMania. Why would you not want the crowd to react to that?
Yeah, like,
it just doesn't make sense.
Figure out some way to do it. I announce it after that. Like, Pierce comes out. This is crazy.
Exactly.
You guys got a match at WrestleMania.
Exactly.
Like, it's basic stuff. I don't understand why we got to do some of these on Adam Pearce's social media.
Yeah, this is wrestling booking 101. Like, what are we doing here? Braun Strowman backstage gassed himself up for the match with Jacob Fatu before Solo Sikoa got in his way talking shit. LA Knight then popped in to even stuff up, given Tama Tonga was there. He ranted on his way through gorilla position ahead of his match, where Knight beat Tonga after avoiding Sikoa interference and countering Tonga into a BFT. It was confirmed after the bell that the number one contendership would determine not only his next challenger, but his WrestleMania opponent. So they announced it on the show. We had Strowman, Fatu, last man standing.
Oh, we got two big meaty men bumping me tonight.
It was on site with these two at the bell. Fatu hit 2 jump up moonsaults right away, and then later a tope suicida knocking Strowman onto the announce table. Braun threw a chair at Jacob's head as he charged at him. Then he hit the express ringside, and he hit like 85% speed, the best one he's done in a long time. Both guys crashed through the barricade. They went atop road cases in the crowd for a suplex through 2 tables. As they crawled back inside the ring, Fatu ran full speed into Strowman with a hip attack, crashing him through a prop table before beating the 10 count, with Braun about a second too late to stand up. Great job by Joe Tessitore, pointing out that Strowman had never lost a last man standing match. That's usually a stat I would give you, and I didn't even realize that. As I said last week, I'd have loved for Fatu to beat Strowman 1-2-3 and get a pinfall victory, which is what should have happened. Braun does not need to be protected. But this was still an immense match.
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want.
These guys banged from bell to bell. Braun must have taken a cortisone shot or something because he moved better than usual. Jacob was still put over pretty big, given how Braun sold for him after the bell. Knight Fatu 1-on-1, that's the right match for WrestleMania. And this completely delivered. 3.75 stars B+, 4.5 slabs of beef. This was good.
Definite good. And just as importantly as all that was making LA Knight look good leading up to all of this. Before his talk, walking out, big pop, give us the LA Knight experience before he potentially, maybe presumably drops the belt to Jacob Fatu. The problem with his first title run was he was like the third wheel in someone else's story. He barely ever defended it, never defended against anyone notable, and then he lost it. So you're giving him a win here, building him up going into the match. It's exactly how he should be built as a champion. Braun Fatu was great, as you would expect. These guys work well together. They fought like a couple of times, and it's always good. They beat the crap out of each other. And Braun himself, by the way, not Braun Strowman, he has been putting himself through hell the last month. All sorts of big falls and big moves and going through tables and all kinds of stuff for a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. So want to shout him out he's definitely been doing the job for Jacob Fatu, but that's you deserve credit for that.
Oh, he deserves a ton of credit. Booking wise, he really should get the 1, 2, 3. Fatu should have. I don't know why you're protecting Strowman. It feels like this is his last run and he's just going all out, and credit to Braun for doing that. But then have him lose. He has to lose stuff, right? And if you don't have him actually lose, I'm saying get pinned, then you're kind of negating how over you're putting someone else. Now, if Knight's going to retain over Fatu at WrestleMania, then maybe you don't want Jacob pinning Braun first because it doesn't accomplish anything. But if he's going to win the title, you have him pin Strowman, and then you have him pin Knight, and all of a sudden you've made a even bigger star than he already has been. That's just what I would say. Aldis backstage on SmackDown announced that next week's show will feature a women's tag team gauntlet match featuring talent from both brands to determine a number one contender for WrestleMania. The competing teams are the KCs, Lyra Valkyria and Bayley, who have never fought together, Pure Fusion Duo, I guess, who haven't been on TV in months, Michin and BFAB, Secret Hervis, and a Natalya Maxine Dupree pairing. On Raw, Natalya was apprehensive to do this, but Pierce pointed out that it's a chance to get on WrestleMania, and there have been multiple segments with Natalya and Maxine backstage on TV in the background and on social media, building up the fact that Maxine's trying to get her to partner with her, so that one's totally fine. But this was pretty weak booking, all things considered. Just putting two teams in a number one contendership gauntlet that have never even wrestled a match together. It seems like the goal here is to legitimize Lyra and Bayley as a team before the expected title match. But this announcement was made before they even went one-on-one Monday night. We're going to have to see next week, but on the surface, I really wasn't overly fond of the announcement. It just completely lacks substance. It leaves a lot to be desired, especially given Liv is insanely over, and she should be part of a major match on this show. Plus, I am shocked that Nia Jax and Candice LeRae, both of whom are apparently healthy, aren't part of this gauntlet. They've fought together. They're an established tag team. I know Candice has the speed title, but you can still put her in this match. So I don't even know. I don't understand why they're not involved here.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think Nia had said something on Twitter refuting a rumor that she was hurt or something like that.
Yeah, she said she's fine now. She could be lying. It's possible. But
yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't put them there. Like you said, I mean, we're a week and a half out. I can't imagine there's anything else planned for Nia. So yes, I agree. The idea here is to give multiple victories for Lyra and Bayley as opposed to just one random team up and they win and they're the number one contenders. You're going to have them earn a number one contender spot, and a gauntlet match will do that. Although, listing down that line tag team division is, but I wish I'm rooting for Secret Hervis to win. I would like Piper. Obviously, it's not going to happen.
That would be better. It objectively would be better. I mean, I love Lyra and Bayley. Let me be clear. Let me change what I just said. Lyra and Bayley are going to give Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez a better match. It's a better match for the show. It's people who are more over with the casual fan. But Secret Hervis is an actual tag team that if you put them in a WrestleMania match for the titles, given they're over and given that would also get Chelsea on the show, it looks like she's not going to be on the show, that would make a lot more sense.
Like, there's nothing really, like, how are you not going to have Chelsea Green on this show?
It's weird.
Like, I'm sure she'll show up somewhere, but she is one of the most over people on your roster right now.
Yeah.
So,
well, she's the
all
women's
right.
United States Championship. Let's talk about the women's Intercontinental Champion because it's almost a parallel situation. So we had Lyra against Bayley for the title on Raw. I believe most of Lyra's entrance came during commercial, which was ridiculous. There were legitimately loud dual chants at the bell and some great early work between them. This match, the crowd was great, by the way. Valkyria totally avoided a tope suicida, but when she tried a similar dropkick, she got caught for a Bayley to belly ringside. Lyra hit a gut-wrench powerbomb that Michael Cole called her finisher Nightwing, which it was not. It's a completely different move. Come on, Cole. Bayley hit a sunset flip powerbomb in a real tight proximity to the turnbuckles. Lyra hit a tornado DDT rolled through into a fisherman suplex. Bayley caught her for a Boston Crab, but just as Lyra was close to tapping out, Bayley tried to get her in the rose plant. I should correct that. It's not that Lyra was close to tapping out. We thought she was, but Bayley thought like this wasn't going to work. She needed to do something else. Anyway, she tried to get her in the rose plant. Valkyria rolled through, flipped over, got a jackknife cover, not a roll-up, a jackknife cover. These are different moves. For the 1-2-3 to retain the title in clean fashion. Bayley initially swatted her hand away in frustration, came back for a tight hug, and then put her over, lifted her arm after the bell. This was every effing thing I wanted from these two and more. I said it when Bayley beat Lyra in the Elimination Chamber qualifier. There was no option but to come back to this and let Valkyria get a clean win over a legend. She and the IC title got established more in these 14 minutes than through anything else that has happened in WWE. And that's including the Becky Lynch match, only because that happened in NXT and fewer people saw it, though I'm not discounting that. Lyra was made on Monday night. The IC title was put on a pedestal as a prize, and this was effing great bell to bell. My only criticism, they should have just put this match on WrestleMania. It deserved it. 4.25 stars and an A. This was good.
Yeah, definitely good. Pretty much anytime Lyra is defending her championship, it's going to be a good because of how infrequently it happens. So
and how good she is as
it's
a
good
wrestler,
to see
too.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she always puts on good matches, and the match was good. So yeah, obvious good.
By the way, Lyra is a win over Charlotte, as unlikely as that may be, from beating every remaining 4 horsewoman in WWE clean for a title. El Grande Americano and American Made fought the LWO. Chad Gable led American Made backstage and confronting one of those bear comedians or whatever his gimmick is. He no-sold Gable, so Otis and Alpha Academy came in and both guys tore off their shirts. I could have sworn this was going to be like a one-on-one match, but I guess that was never specified. Americano got a great crowd reception. Early in the match, there was even a dual chant. Again, the crowd wasn't terrible all night, but it wasn't great in key moments. But here, they chanted, "That's Chad Gable. No, it's not." I mean, the fans were really hot for this. Great to see that. LWO had a really fun run of offense together before Made answered with stereo superplexes, which was really convoluted. LWO then set Americano up for some type of doomsday splash. He countered into a Spanish fly while sitting on Dragon Lee's shoulders. That's pretty sick. Dragon came back with a Liger Bomb. Julius Creed broke that with a Shooting Star Press. Joaquin Wilde used 2 dudes as step stools for an incredible Tope Con Hero before Del Toro took out Brutus with an Escalera Tornillo. Ivy Nile handed a blackjack to Americano. He put that underneath his mask. Rey Mysterio confronted but took a headbutt. Dragon Lee tried to remove the mask, but Americano headbutted him and then hit a flying headbutt chaser for the win. To say this over-delivered would be an incredible understatement. LWO finally got to showcase what they can truly do to the near best of their abilities. Every single time they get an opportunity, they impress, just like Legado del Fantasma. The answer is to give them more consistent, important opportunities. The heels played their roles perfectly. Americano got the necessary win to presumably set up a match in this moment with Mysterio at WrestleMania. It was indeed awesome. That's what the fans chanted. Good lucha things. Americano is over like Rover. 3.75 stars B+.
Yeah, it was good. In a nice, interesting way to cheat, like a creative way, as opposed to just some distraction or whatever. So, yeah, this was good.
Later backstage, Mysterio confronted Pierce, who was ready to give him a match against Gable, but Mysterio said he needed to expose Americano for mocking Lucha Libre at WrestleMania. Pierce made the match out of respect. Quite surprised that this wasn't stipulated as mask versus mask or something like that, but it's the right booking, and it's going to be a nice it's going to be a nice popcorn style match on the show. Plus, Mysterio and Americano one-on-one, that's legitimately huge for someone who's only been on this roster for like a month. Meanwhile, a new luchador gets a WrestleMania match, and Chad Gable completely left off another WrestleMania card.
Yeah, second year in a row, really. It should have been him last year as well. It's all jokes aside, I love
What do
this
you mean?
idea, but
What jokes? I'm talking about.
announce the match in front of the crowd. Like, again, why are we doing this backstage?
Yeah, the crowd did pop anyway, but yes, in the crowd it would have been better.
It did, but the El Grande Americano stuff has been really over. It's really funny, and I can't believe, hey, look, they can still add it, but like you said, mask versus mask, it's right there. It's the easiest layup you can have in wrestling, Yeah. And then he loses, and then he gets unmasked, and everybody will go hilarious over that. It's right there. So hopefully they do that, but that also could have been the reason for the match. Ray's I know this is Gable, let's have the match, I'm going to show the world.
I thought it was interesting that he played it the other way though, where he was he's I don't want Gable, I want Americano, and I want to prove he's a fraud. I really thought that was interesting. It
could just been I know this is Chad Gable, I'll prove it to you, I'm willing to put my mask on the line if you give me this match, mask versus mask. There you go.
Yeah.
Easy, do it.
I think they want to continue the gimmick though of no one being 100% certain except for Pierce. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I'm okay with it so far. AJ Styles.
You can't ultimately, but when you look back at this WrestleMania, I don't think El Grande Americano is going to be that long of a character.
No.
Where ending it at Mania makes a lot of sense.
Totally. Yes. I mean, if he beat Mysterio at WrestleMania, I mean, that would probably be pretty incredible. You could stretch it out for another month, but it can't go longer than, 6 or 10 weeks longer than currently.
And Chad Gable's never had a one-on-one match at Mania, right? I can't imagine.
No, and he still doesn't. I mean, hopefully in 2026, fingers crossed.
It's a funny way to do it. But you gotta, yeah.
Oh. AJ Styles backstage said he was excited to embarrass Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Karrion Kross interrupted, yelling at Styles, basically saying he needs to be at his best because everyone is counting on him. Styles countered by telling Kross he'll prove that version is still inside of him during a match next week. Kross on the go-home WrestleMania is not what I expected because he hasn't wrestled on TV in 4 months. But if Styles is going to be positioned in this manner, where he is representing the actual wrestlers against Logan, that's hugely positive to the idea that he wins that match, which he basically must. This was a good little segment.
It was good for Kross, but it shouldn't be on Karrion Kross. This story should be AJ and Logan Paul. Again, we've got only a couple of, I guess this is SmackDown. So this is wrong.
Dude, we
only have one.
I was totally fine with Logan not being on TV. I just gotta be honest with you.
Look, if he's gonna be in the match,
he'll be on TV
AJ
next week.
Styles,
He'll be on TV next week. It's fine.
I want you to build this match. And Karrion Kross is kind of the stand-in to kind of be the story. Kross is doing great work.
He is.
But AJ's just there, man. And I really hope it's not his last Mania. He certainly deserves a better.
I hope it's AJ. I hope it is not AJ's last Mania. I hope it is Logan's last Mania. There was enough problematic people on Raw Monday night, including in this next segment. World Tag Team Championship War Raiders defending against New Day. Unfortunately, Tony Hinchcliffe was on commentary here. Both WrestleMania and Netflix connections. That's the reason why. I believe the War Raiders' entire entrance was skipped, making it 2 champions we didn't get to see walk to the ring on Monday night. Eric aided Ivar in a barricade crossbody early. Eric later hit a huge Uranagi combined with Ivar for a pop-up World's Strongest Slam before they crushed New Day with War Machine, their finisher. Xavier Woods broke the fall, tried to use a chair, but after a tug of war, Ivar drilled him in the gut with it for a DQ, and that gave New Day the win. The heels attacked with the chair after the bell, focusing on the necks of the champions. New Day was about to do a finisher with Eric's neck under the back, laying on the seat of the chair before security and producers pulled them off. And just as a point of order, this is exactly what should have happened at AEW Dynasty with Adam Copeland and FTR. It's exactly the same thing that I was talking about. They did it on Raw and security actually came out, whereas there, no one gave a shit. But I was legitimately shocked. I never put 2 and 2 together that New Day is feuding with a team that recently both came back from neck injuries, and Big E is obviously dealing with a neck injury himself. There's a perfect parallel there. Hinchcliffe sucked on commentary. Straight up atrocious. And it was so stupid to have him there for a championship match of all things, given he's not even part of WrestleMania. He's hosting a roast that isn't even available on Netflix. This was literally the worst part of WWE television this entire week. Even Michael Cole was audibly annoyed by this guy by the time it was over. Such a failure. The match was short, ended in a DQ. Maybe we get a title match at Mania and Big E gets involved and helps War Raiders. That could be cool, but that did not save this segment. This was straight up ugly.
That is one big pile of shit.
It's ugly. I'm with you. My first thought when Hinchcliffe was here, I was like, why? This is a title match. Put him on the LWO El Grande match. And then I realized, well, that might actually be worse.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
Given the things he said. And I've said this to you in terms of all these.
Why is a person who said those things on WWE television? Why is a person who said those things hosting a roast of WrestleMania? I'm sorry.
So this goes back to like the Andrew Schultz thing and some other stuff. And like, there's a different level to all of these guys. Like Shane Gillis, I like him. I think he's great. Schultz is a little bit farther, but I still like him. I think he's good. Hinchcliffe for me is too far in like the edgelord.
He's
category.
trash.
I've
Guy's
watched
trash.
his stuff. It's for a very specific audience that likes the really kind of roasty type of stuff. And so he makes the joke about Big E and like stiff necks. And then I saw a bunch of people like got mad about it. And Big E, like, I think on the Raw recap or something like that, where I couldn't tell if he was like really offended or not. Surely the line was part of the deal, but like, that's his thing, man. He's going to make inappropriate jokes. So I'm not upset that he said that. That's what WWE signed it up for.
Wait, what joke did he say? I think I missed it. What did he say?
He said like something like Cole is as stiff as Big E's neck or something.
Oh,
like Cole.
Jeez.
And so that drew a lot of reaction.
I didn't even. I just completely missed that. Yeah.
But that's his comedy. Like that's what he is. You know, you're doing that. So I didn't really have a problem with that if that's what WWE is signing up for. So he wasn't good on commentary. He is a big wrestling fan. To be fair, he's not just some random guy who's like sitting there. He is a big wrestling fan, so he does have a knowledge of all of that stuff. He was trying to do like clean roast jokes, and they weren't exactly hitting, because if you're going to do it in that style, you got to go really crass. And I'm sure they will on that roast. There's a reason they're not showing it on TV. So it's also weird that they're promoting it. I don't know. There's so many events around Mania. It's weird. Being in business with him, I'm not a big fan of, but he does have a big audience. I get it. He just sucked here in this spot, and this was, all in all, ugly.
Motor City Machine Guns fought DIY in a number one contendership on SmackDown. Street Profits entered first and sat in the front row. There was like an overdose of smoke for them on the stage, but hey, they want the smoke, right? Tommaso Ciampa ripped off a turnbuckle pad and hit Project Ciampa, followed by a kick-aided fairy tale ending for a broken fall. MCMG hit their big sequence before Johnny Gargano broke up Skull and Bones for a second time. Ciampa got caught with his feet on the ropes and got run into the exposed turnbuckle, with Alex Shelley rolling him up, actually rolling him up here for the win. You never could have made me believe a few years ago that WWE would be this hot, yet DIY and MCMG would get such muted reactions every time they wrestle on TV. Besides that, this was a horrendous ending to a number one contendership match, even if it was a heel tactic coming back to bite them in the ass. I simply do not understand what has happened to the SmackDown tag team division that was building so much momentum. The title change to the Street Profits was great, but all those other teams that were simultaneously hot have gotten cold. And it's only been like a month. It's like the excitement got completely drained from the entire division. So I got to say bad here, even if next week's match leads to a multi-team battle at WrestleMania, but there's no guarantee that's even going to happen at this point.
Yeah, I don't really know where this is going to go. I'm giving this a bad, I'm not totally out on the SmackDown tag team division. It was a bad week or two, but like the Pretty Deadly stuff was good. I'm liking what we're getting from Street Profits. But MCMG DIY, like it wasn't good the first time around. And MCMG just, neither of these teams really are like have enough character to get invested in it. DIY is just kind of very basic heels, and MCMG is just very basic faces. And it's kind of a by the numbers type of thing.
Yeah, the reason people liked Gargano and Ciampa in NXT is because they had characters that they bought into and cared about. And it's like they've lost the plot when it comes to these. MCMG has zero character. We have no reason to care about them at all. DIY, there's a little bit, but they stopped telling a story with them. They just exist. They all exist as tag teams who wrestle. Like the teams that have angles that you care about are Street Profits. Los Garza kind of a little bit. New Day, you have some. War Raiders, not really. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole division, but they're just kind of not getting there. They're booking the tag teams more and they're regularly on television. That's hugely positive. But I don't think they are fully understanding in that division what is required to get fans to care, especially on SmackDown right now. Miz was giving a lesson to Carmelo Hayes backstage when they came across Pretty Deadly, so both guys tore them down for blowing their opportunity in London, and they got cheap heat calling them the Chicago Bears. They went back and forth for a while before Deadly asked Melo why he's wasting his time with Miz when they're not even a real tag team. Miz protested, saying they are Melo, don't Miz, leading to a presumptive tag team match next week. I'm actually going to drop a light good for this. It was the most serious we've ever seen Deadly, and I do somewhat enjoy Melo and Miz together. They just need to give us a little bit more background. Why did Melo eventually decide to stay with Miz? Why does he think this is good for his career? Miz has teamed with a lot of people and won tag team championships with a lot of people and gotten a lot of people over. I'm not against this at its base level. I do understand people are frustrated by this. I get it. Braun Breaker's doing this. Tiffany Stratton's doing that. Melo was a first-round draft pick, and he's the second guy in a tag team with Miz. I get all of that. I don't inherently think it's a bad booking decision to team them together. The question is, can you turn Melo babyface out of this? And if so, how do you do it?
This is fine. I give it a light good, but it's another one of those things where it's very low on the card, so you don't get that little extra bit of like detail to really put it all together.
Low on the card during the road to WrestleMania, like the worst time, yeah.
Yeah, like really go into like Miz is just there listing off all his accolades, but like you could have Melo and Miz have a real heart-to-heart about why they're doing this. And so then you kind of get into them as a team. But you kind of don't get that when you're this on the card. Also, I'm surprised you're giving this a good, given Pretty Deadly mentioned their musical and that they had a song for it.
So it has been mentioned. It has been mentioned on 2 shows, I think, over the last 3 weeks. And both times it was used as an insult against them. And they like brushed it off as like, we're beyond that. That's why I didn't mention it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because it's not hanging over their heads anymore. They're serious characters. They weren't even dressed in their little crop tops. They look good, actually. Mm-hmm. They look really good. Before we get out of this segment, that really was the last graded bit. We received some pretty heavy criticism in our DMs for not shouting out Kathy Kelly over the last month. I apologize. It was a massive oversight.
Fair.
From the glasses a couple of weeks ago to the gold dress that this lady wore on Monday night that we hardly got to see. She's not only amazing at her job, which is by far the most important, she's almost unbearably beautiful no matter what look she tries to go after. So for all those people criticizing us that we didn't shout out Kathy Kelly.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
I was up all night.
That's the most action I've had all year.
I hope you're happy. We gave her all 3 sound drops. There you go. Vintage, there is a huge week here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast still to come, an even bigger week next week. So we have Drew McIntyre sitting down one-on-one with the Silver King coming to your ear holes before the week is out. We will also have an NXT and AEW breakdown. That's this week. Next week, WrestleMania 41 week right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Multiple episodes. We will share them with you on social media. I'll do my best to share that schedule on the Drew McIntyre interview episode as well. Every podcast, when they're going to get published, what they are going to contain. We do it up right here. For WrestleMania, we deliver performance-enhancing audio to your ear holes. On the way out of today's show, let me remind you about a couple things. First, you can follow us on social media. At Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. Episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, schedule updates, all of that good stuff. Send in questions and comments for the show. I saw a lot of you did this week. We'll factor as many of those as we possibly can into our WrestleMania 41 Ultimate Preview, which will be our major episode on Tuesday next week. Feel free to send in more questions and comments. We're going to do that show big. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast, not only for full-length video interviews of every new interview we have in 2025 and beyond, but clips from old interviews and full-length audio of every episode of Getting Over, if that is your preferred medium. Please remember,
It's all about the 5.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And do not forget,
I happen to love the number 5. 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reaction to every major shows, just not this week, and exclusive news analysis every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thanks once again to Vintage Chris Vanini for joining. As I said, WrestleMania week coming up 7 days from now, maybe 6 days, depending on when this episode gets published. It is going to be an extravaganza of performance-enhancing audio right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. For Vintage, this is the Silver King signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.